middle-aged women, just middle-aged people in general, kind of hit the point where they finally start integrating that, and they finally start realizing that they're missing it. And that's when they like leave their partner and completely change their life, because they're like, oh my God, like I'm a different person now.
I just wonder, like, there are multiple different dimensions of blind spots, things that we're missing that we need, and we try to get to them in weird ways, either through our partners or whatever else.
The Big Hormone Enneagram.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres, 4-5 link, 4-5-8 Trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9-1, 9-7-4 Trifix.
What up, it's Emeka. I'm an 8-7, sexual self-pres with 8-5-4 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 3-6-9 Trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Hormone Enneagram podcast. We've been gone for a while. We've been on vacation. We've been lazy. And John's not here today because he's got technical issues with his microphone. He's in Seattle right now. But we, a couple weeks ago, we were in New York. We recorded a live pod that should be going live soon. Probably going live before this episode. So, plugs. Buy John's book, Instinctual Drives in the Enneagram. It's available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Don't forget to leave a rating or a review. What else? Buy David's Trifix booklet. Sales are pretty consistent on that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much same amount pretty much every month. Steady. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and you know, the topic of Trifix is something that we keep exploring in different ways, and David's book, or Trifix booklet, is a good intro way to, and creative way to explore the different Trifixes. Let's see, what else do we have? DAA, Dark Arts Academy. We just recorded a class on the douchebag that I've been mentioning, Andrew Tate, on here. Apparently the most popular man on the internet currently. It's been going viral.
I personally love that his last name sounds like Taint.
Yeah, right? People can't stop sharing clips of his controversial opinions. But yeah, we typed him. Have
you seen him, Nancy? You know him?
I looked him up, and I haven't. I mean, he doesn't show up on my For You page stuff because I think my algorithm knows. But
right, that you would despise him.
Yeah, that I would literally rip his face off and eat it as a slice of bologna if I could.
It was fun, just like not fun, but more like another Trump-ish kind of character that, you know, uses the same sort of similar strategy of pissing people off and somehow becomes president. That's Anyway, so yeah, DAA. We've got a class on Andrew Tate, and I think we're doing Marina Abramovic or something.
Abramovic or something.
Yeah, the artist, which should be an interesting one coming up soon. And you know, for people who've been asking about where they can get typed, you can go to Enneagrammer. Get typed by Enneagrammer. You can Google that to find us. If you've been, you know, guessing about your type for a long time, get the best damn typers on planet Earth to help you. Enneagrammer.com. What else am I forgetting? Am I forgetting anything else?
I think that's it.
Oh, yeah. Josh's podcast. It's been What It's Like to Be You. I think John's episode dropped this week. I've been interviewed. David, you've been interviewed. I think people have been responding really well to that.
Everyone but me.
You can get interviewed.
No, it's fine. You know, I'll just be over here not being asked to be interviewed. It's fine.
He's doing circles around the Enneagram. So
no.
I think he put out the request and you were supposed to respond.
She did not respond.
No, yeah. Well, you know, I'm a little busy anyway, so.
Yeah.
too busy for that podcast.
Yeah, geez. I just want to be asked, but I'd say no. Just to be clear, Josh.
She's got no time for
I love
you, Josh.
I'm just kidding.
But no, that's been a fun series. Josh has, got that Bermuda magic, social 3 Bermuda magic, where he knows how to ask questions to pull things out. I didn't really let him ask questions. I just went in like 15-minute rants at a time. It's funny to watch the interviews and how, the different types present themselves. And I'm like, man, I'm an attention hog. You're not getting any words in.
Your competition for Andrew Tate.
Yeah, but the things I have to say are interesting,
That's
and you just look better aesthetically.
Well, thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, anytime, Emeka, really. I mean, the bar is pretty low with Andrew Tate, but you are like eons past him.
That's good to know. That's good to know. All right, so we are gonna freestyle a topic today that this might work, this might not work. We'll see. But this idea. Okay, just to set this up, we were in New York and we had multiple discussions, and this is something that came up because Josh Levine was asking about his blind spot and Levine. Sorry, yes.
That's how you say his name?
Yeah.
Oh no. I have said it wrong so many times.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
I feel like it's got to be his fault because he had to have.
He
missed
never
some
corrected
chances.
me.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's upsetting.
So Josh Levine was talking about his blind spot and, just how murky and difficult it felt for him to sort of like have practical ways to access the sexual instinct. And a couple of things came up for me. John has incredible exercises in his book, but he wanted what are some things that I can look to right now that I'm not doing that are, the sexual instinct. And so we got into like attraction and sort of his dating history. And so he talked about dating a type twin. He dated another social Bermuda 3. And as you might assume, that would be a disaster in terms of some kind of like attraction spark or whatever.
No polarity.
Zero polarity whatsoever. And I was telling him that there's something about I think attraction is sort of feeling that the things that you're missing in yourself, it's it's an externalized, compartmentalized example of whatever it is you're missing. So someone who's like really put together and responsible and ambitious like Josh might be attracted to, wild, crazy people like us, or some like DJ7 or something, someone who embodies the qualities that he's missing in his whole typology. I just wanted to get into to explore blind spots in different ways, and not just like the instinctual blind spot, but like there are certain qualities that are missing in our whole type, structure that maybe if you don't address them, it gets embodied in stuff that you're attracted to or pulled into or most affected by.
Part of that conversation was, though, him being sexual blind and the way that manifests as him not knowing, that there wasn't chemistry, for example, when he dated his type twin.
Yeah, it's a sort of like, what is a good attraction? People tend to default to similarity, and I think there's usually a combination of you need to be comfortable with somebody, and so there's some kind of overlap with them, but they need to be different. And what are you attracted to that's different? You're usually attracted to what you don't have.
Right.
So, like for example, Nancy, like your 9 has qualities that you don't have, and you were drawn to him for very specific reasons. Can you talk about that? Like what you're attracted to about your husband?
My husband. Well, I do want to make a point first that with certain types, there is a level of having to fit the, what am I trying to say? Like the status, right? So, like specifically for 3s, I could see how I markedly do not like male 3s. Like any male 3. I am not attracted to them. I don't dislike them as friends, but I do not like them as like a partner. But there is a level of attraction in the fact that they can bring the status that you kind of seek, and they already see it. So there is some of that with 3s that I think other types may not have. As far as my husband, I mean, I've talked about it before. There's a level-headedness, a practicality that I don't think myself as a 3-6-9 kind of has. Mm-hmm. So there's like a slowness is the wrong word, but like a steadiness. Measured, yeah, exactly. That I think 9s typically have that I really appreciate, because I tend to kind of bust out the gate and just go. Whereas a 9 can kind of be like, oh, but look at the flowers. And it's like, oh, wow, I never noticed those. Thank you. Like,
yeah. No, that's, go ahead.
And something with his 2 fix, maybe a certain kind of something.
Yeah, like a softness. There's, I think one thing that he brings out in me is like my want to take care of someone else, because when I've had, like, I don't like taking care of other people. I don't want to. I haven't ever had a desire to, but for him, I do. And so I don't know if it's the reciprocity of it all. Right. Like, I know that he's going to reciprocate in a way that I find like loving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't know if I've talked about it on here, but throughout my dating history, I've been really affected by heart energy. So I'm heart last. That's my last center. So besides my instinctual, social, and blind spot, I have the heart center as last. And, throughout my experience, it's been this thing of I've been sort of surprised by how affected I'd be by partners who somehow embodied like a heartfulness that I don't have access to. And in some ways, it's something that can be a real vulnerability for me, because it's like I don't see it coming. And so I'm wondering, like what you're saying, Nancy, is you're gut last, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just about to say, I think all of my like best partners have been 9s, like the ones that I've like got like this, it's been like a good relationship, have been 9s, and I like actively seek 9s out.
Yeah.
Like when as friends and everything, I'm like, oh, I like this. And ones, I attract ones too.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, there's something there. Like, there's something about, we have the instinctual blind spot, and we're invested in overdoing our dominant instinct to push away from that blind spot. But if there's something about secretly we all need all 3 instincts. So there's weird ways that we are looking for that blind spot in ways that we're not aware of. And I feel like there's something there with the types too, and the centers. Fixes. Yeah, the fixes. And so like, I think there was a thread in the group where people had drawn their overlays on the Enneagram symbol. Overlay is something that Joseph came up for Enneagrammers. Overlay is just the wings on your fixes. And people had used that to look at what types were missing in them. And I think it's useful to think about that stuff in the sense of, what's missing from your life. Like I just did a follow-up call with a Stockholm 6 who was trying to figure out, like, how do I use this information to grow? And I suggested, because there were certain types that were missing completely. She didn't really have that much of self-indulgence going on. Most of everything she had going on was just, I need to help the people that I care about. Mm-hmm. So there's this shadow that gets created, or a backlog of, I'm not doing anything for myself. I'm not doing anything that's completely self-indulgent for me. I was like, well, you need to you're not going to be a self-indulgent type. You're always going to be helping other people, but you need to actually set time or set aside something for yourself on a weekly basis that is purely self-indulgent. It's purely for you. And because, I mean, this is something I've been picking up from the OPS perspective of doing things, at least the approach to the blind spot, is that you don't have to become like a dominant instinct person or dominant, like someone who's dominant in a certain blind spot. You just need to get a little bit more from it on a consistent basis so it doesn't become a huge problem. So it's like this idea of, oh, I'm not doing anything for myself. It's like, just, she figured out that I can go dancing every week. It's something that I really enjoy, or dance class every week, something I really enjoy, and it's completely self-indulgent, and it's getting a little bit of my, sexual instinct. And I was like, that's a great idea. And so I was just thinking about that for myself, all these different ways that we have these blind spots that if we don't address them ourselves, they come out in these compartmentalized ways, or maybe they get externalized in someone that we're attracted to, so that we just don't ever actually have to integrate that part. It becomes this outside thing that can become a demon or a shadow, either expressed in a person or expressed in weird ways that we're not aware of. And
now that I think of it, I feel like a lot of middle-aged women, just middle-aged people in general, kind of hit the point where they finally start integrating that, and they finally start realizing that they're missing it. And that's when they like leave their partner and completely change their life, because they're like, oh my God, like I'm a different person now. So it's like, if you don't integrate it at a healthy pace at a time that is, I mean, it's, it was a life that they were living that they should leave, right? So it's a good thing, but it's like, it's just, don't wait. Why would you wait?
I think part of that is the natural progression of that integration of, for example, the sexual instinct. Part of the sexual instinct is noticing that there's no more spark here.
Yes.
That the fire's gone, right? And so just that noticing, to me, is itself part of the integration or the start of it or something.
Yeah. Because people talk about, having, it seems to me that sort of like a midlife crisis or the quarter life crisis or whatever you want to call it is really like like the tidal wave, as they would refer to it in OPS. It's like this buildup of you not addressing your blind spot until it becomes a big enough problem that you have a crash. And so if you don't address sexual instinct, you have maybe decades of sort of like going around and doing your thing without really checking in as to, am I really into this? Is this like enlivening for me in any way? Until it builds up to the point where you can't ignore it and you crash and you do some really drastic things to experience that sort of charge and self-revision of the sexual instinct. You burn everything down. Versus if you would have integrated it, on a consistent, getting little hits of it on a weekly basis, maybe you wouldn't have such a huge crash. And so I just wonder, like, there are multiple different dimensions of blind spots, things that we're missing that we need, and we try to get to them in weird ways, either through our partners or whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you and I are doing these Enneagram groups as a distorted version of accessing social or something.
Oh, yeah. I could go on about that. That's like, I think the Enneagram has been a portal for me to understand people and to connect to people. Like, just mastering or learning this esoteric system of knowledge. It's like, from an 8 perspective, it creates a certain amount of leverage where there's only me and a handful of people who know how to do what we do. So it's like, you've got to find a way to connect to me and connect to people through this system. But it's also a way to really understand people. Like, before the Enneagram, I just didn't really have that much empathy, because I didn't really understand all the different personalities that were so valid for people. They were so different from my own. So yeah, it's a distorted because we run a group, and even just like having a podcast and having fans and people who are like following us and into us and all that kind of stuff. This is like big time social instinct.
And we still don't know what the hell we're doing.
I was going to say, you don't do it in a social way, but I get what you're saying.
So yeah, it's a distorted social. I mean, because it's like not even realizing that talking to people that you like on a weekly basis is something that would be beneficial to me. That was a revelation.
What is this strange thing? My mouth is moving. Emotions are coming out of it.
I actually want human interaction.
You know,
strange.
Fucking 2020 was a rough year for a lot of people, but didn't really feel that rough to me because we were talking to people.
Felt that.
I was talking to people every week that I like, and it's like, wow, this is what the social instinct, this is what the needs of social, why people like who are social first or social second really like, you know, like that was sort of like awakening. Oh, this is what loneliness might be like if this is missing. You're not regularly like getting to like commune with people.
I often use like my social instinct showing up really strong as like like not a red flag, but kind of a red flag of like, oh, you're feeling something that you don't want to feel. Like, because I will be like, oh, like I'm gonna call my friend Winona, and then like once that call ends, I'm like, I want to talk to someone else. Like I'm alone with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I want to talk to a bunch of people, it's like, okay, there's probably something happening.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes as social blind or whatever your blind spot instinct is that you don't have the sensory you don't have the pickups, you don't have the sensitivity for you needing that instinct. And so for as a social blind, whenever we do these zones, it's like a huge hit of like, oh, this feels so good to be around my friends and like to really deeply connect. And it's like, oh wow, like I really like this. But then you go back into your cave and you forget that that's a consistent need. Like it would be cool if you felt that on a week to week basis. And I guess this pod is a way to do that. But it's like you forget that you have those needs because you don't have the sensitivity to even know that you need it. And so there's a thread in a group of people commenting about their blind spot. And a lot of times people were commenting, I don't know what I'm missing. And I was like, yeah, that's literally
That's what I was going to say. I was literally like, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Like, I feel like I've got it covered. I don't at any point go, I need this. Like, at no point am I like, the sexual instinct needs to be integrated. I'm like, no, I got it.
Absolutely. That's the whole point. But it's like, you don't realize, the thing about the blind spot is that you don't realize.
Know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know until it's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Until you get yourself like 3 years deep into a career that you absolutely despise.
Or a relationship.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, there was a relation or a thread about dating the wrong partners and people assume they were sexual blind. Not to say that only sexual blinds do this, but getting into relationships with people they don't really want to be with. And like what you're mentioning, I spent the last decade or 2 decades of my life doing something that I'm not doesn't really fire me up. And, now I'm going to burn it all down because I haven't injected any sort of charge or hook for myself consistently over the years. And now it's like a huge upheaval that's destructive in a much bigger way than it ever needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
The other way we could look at it is, I guess with the three of us, we could explore the types that are missing in us. I'll go first. Like I'm 8 wing 7. My 5 fix has a 4 wing, and my 4 fix has a 3 wing. So what I'm missing is all the superego types and 9.
So you're missing 2, 1,
6,
and 9.
And so there's, like you could say that there might be a repulsion there because it's like to do your core, your fixation, you kind of have to like what you're missing feels gross. It's like, a lot of people. It's like, I don't. Why would I need 6? What do I need?
Why would I need 2?
From 1. But there's an element of you don't realize it. Not realizing that I'm attracted to certain elements of those types, even if I'm annoyed by them. And
so we are assuming that we are not adding the lines of integration into this.
Well, that's another angle because I do have a connection to 2 because I have a line to 2. But 2 does still gross me out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it becomes too complicated if we tried to do all the connecting lines.
Yeah.
But just talking about it as the last
That's
fix,
just
for example.
the wings.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fixes.
For example,
Well,
Nancy,
yeah.
what's your overlay? You're 3 wing
Stop.
4, 6 wing 7,
6 wing 7, and
9 wing 1.
probably 9 with the 1, I would
Okay.
say.
Yeah, I think I'm
Yeah.
9 with 1.
Yeah.
So, oh god, okay, so I'm missing 2.
So you're 1 4 7 overlay.
So yeah, you're like me, missing all the rejection types.
Oh,
And I'm
Wait,
the
which ones am I missing?
2,
I'm
5,
the
8.
rejection.
2, 5, 8. Okay, gotcha.
That's interesting. You're both missing 2 5 8.
Yeah, that was the. I think that was a big part of the relationship that I've mentioned in that one podcast about me. With the sexual social 8, she was an 8 5 2,
Oh, interesting.
and that was the most intense relationship I've ever had, and it was
Oh,
because of that polarity. And she had social in there too, so that was another kind of polarity.
Oh, that's
This would-
interesting.
Yeah, this would explain why I cannot grasp those types to save
Yeah.
my life.
Same. I have a problem sort of finding them. Like,
Yeah.
as a body type, I can't find them in my body, so to speak.
Mm.
Okay, this is interesting because not by choice, but I have always somehow had a Stockholm attracted to me,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not
Yeah.
there's no overlap at all. So like the Stockholm type
Right.
is the you would call that the empath type, I
Yeah.
would think.
Which is, again, for the people 2, 6, and 9, any order.
Yes. So, with 8, 5, and 4, there's kind of like, 8 is already not doing empathy. It's sort of like
Right.
a enclosed box, but with 5 and 4, it's an 8 that's overdoing separateness.
Mhm.
And so I have capacity to be empathetic, but like the assumption is that everything and everyone is sort of like their own
Separate unit.
self-contained,
That was
everything.
the least empathetic sentence I've ever. It's not that I don't have empathy. I'm pretty sure someone who doesn't have empathy has to say that.
Exactly. Clearly, empathy is a blind spot for me.
Clearly.
Oh man, like I a couple years, like a long time ago, when I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me dating wise, I'd had multiple conversations with OD, and I was trying to pick his brain, like, what is it that you're doing with girls that for some reason he's a social sexual 6, Bermuda 6. Why is it that he could continue relationships or multiple relationships over years with different girls? And I'm like, I don't understand what is going on, what you're doing. And so I was just asking him, so, when you're hanging out, like, what are you saying? Like, what's happening? And so it's like, he's just telling me he's connecting and, just like, what's going on with you? And it's like, okay, all right. And he's like complimenting them and all this stuff. Oh, it's like compliments. I don't do that. I was like, I'm going to try compliments. And so for like a year or so, I made
You would just randomly throw out a compliment and be like, your hair's pretty.
So I would try compliments, and these are people that barely know me, but they would look at me like something was wrong. Like it just didn't fit.
It doesn't fit.
It didn't, like, maybe because I wasn't saying it in a way where I believed the bullshit that was coming out of my mouth. But it wasn't a like a genuine empathetic compliment.
Just mid conversation. I like your toes.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
was your form of pickup artist.
Yeah,
Empathy.
I was trying to perform empathy. But no, that's interesting. I've always had this. There's been that polarity between me and Stockholm. It's so different, and that's part of what's attractive about that. Like, I'm completely missing 2, 6, and 9, and 1. And so, what does that say about what's missing in my life? And at least my processing this and thinking about it, at least with 6 and 1, there's a sense of like having some kind of consistent process where you're building something over a long period of time, and like it feels like there's no sense of organization that in my life, like in terms of like you're heading in a certain direction and you need to build certain foundations to get there. And so like sexual blind 6 with 1, at least, there's a sense of responsibility to certain values. And that's only become more of a thing the older I've gotten, that I now have like connections and things that are important to me that I want to build. And it's like, all right, like you have to have certain values and you have to have certain things that you're responsible to, that you want to consistently develop towards. And that's like a new thing for me, because a lot of my personality just sort of like chases to whatever is the most interesting at any point in time. But eventually you have to build. And so that's what I would say, that this is maybe me attempting to integrate some of those qualities that are missing in me. It's like, this is really hard for me to actually set aside some priorities that I'm going to build over the next 5 to 10 years on. I feel like that's like 6-1 territory.
I mean, that would make sense as to why, like, when Stockholms show up in your life, there's like no middle ground, right? It's like, it's so major of a difference that meeting in the middle is like not an option.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is no middle ground between that polarity.
It's instant magnet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's magnet attraction, which is, problem with that is that that type of extreme polarity is kind of unstable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. And, it says something about attraction, that you need a healthy dose of similarity and difference in order to have, like, you need to be able to have a middle ground that's like, I totally get you, you're speaking my language, but also you're doing something for each other where you're shoring up on some of those missing pieces.
Right. You need a place to go that feels like home for both of you.
That's a really good point. David, with your thing with the 852, was that a similar thing where it's like insane attraction, but there wasn't a middle ground, a meeting place?
Yeah, there was no middle ground. It was like it took off, and it was, I mean, within a few weeks, it was like talking about living together and stuff, and that's not me at all, right?
Yeah, so, right.
That's
we know this.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like, and because we're both body types, we were like actually doing a lot of conversation, where we were sort of almost creating that environment, even though we were online and a few thousand miles away, where as if we were in the same physical space together.
So, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really intense, there's something about that. So for you, Nancy, have you ever had some scenario where you had like an insane attraction to some 258 whatever?
I mean, I am so unfamiliar with that type that I don't even know if I would recognize it. What's our nickname for it?
The Cult Classic, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if I could spot it.
It's really rare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever dated any of those types? Like,
well, yeah, that's
2,
what I'm
5, or 8?
thinking. I usually find 2s very repulsive. Sorry.
Everybody seems to find 2s. I won't say that.
Yeah, maybe don't say that. Sorry, 2s. It's not your fault. You're very kind people. I just don't like you.
We're not doing another episode apologizing to 2s.
Right.
No, we aren't. We really aren't. I think I find 5s pretty attractive when they show up. I think it's just really cool that they can stay on, like, that they can do a deep dive into one thing. I find that very, like, interesting. Like, I will listen to them talk about that one thing for like hours. 8s I usually just find angering because they remind me of my mom. So I don't think you could pay me enough money to date an 8 or a 2, and I don't think 5s are common enough for me to run into them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think about, like, I mean, John and Alexander aren't here, but I think this is a topic that could go multiple different directions. So maybe we'll do a part 2 and they can get into it. But
yeah,
they have, a huge polarity with the social instinct. John's social blind and she's social first. And, I've mentioned already, just there's a real interesting magic of talking to a social dominant person and like the kind of attention that can.
It's like a drug.
Yeah. So
it's so nice.
As a social blind, it's something that you don't even realize that how big of an effect it's having on you until the conversation's over. It's like, oh wow, that felt really good, you know. And so John's got that with Alexander, but they've got some overlap by both being withdrawn types, you know, types that stay in their cave and just
Their other polarity, of course, is she's Bermuda and he's all hexad. So
there you go. There you go. So yeah, there's some interesting thing to explore there that you know, we all need our blind spots, and it might happen in the form of a partner, or it might happen in the form of like a midlife crisis, something that you haven't been addressing for decades, and it eventually catches up to you. So this thought of I don't need that. You like you say that now, but it's like you'll find out how much you need it when it's a huge problem, and that's the whole point.
So, out of personal curiosity, what does missing all three 852 like leave me and David lacking?
Okay, I just had this conversation with somebody on a follow-up call because there were a Bermuda 9 that was missing. They were social. No, I don't think they were social, but they were missing 2, 5, and 8. And what I came up with was that I think what is rejection doing? 8, 5, and 2 are saying that I need to bring something to the situation in order to exist in it. So, you know, 8 is doing that in the body center. I need to bring leverage. I need to bring life force. 5 is like I need to bring some specialized knowledge, and 2 is like I need to bring my own sort of specialized care and love to the situation. But the thing about those rejection types is that when the thing that I'm bringing isn't accepted or isn't appreciated or wanted, I completely disengage.
Yeah. So
I believe what's missing for people who are missing rejection types is that ability to completely, it's assuming cut offness. So if you don't have rejection types in the mix for yourself, you might end up getting stuck in situations where you're finding all these different ways to justify staying in that rejection types would have disengaged from a long time ago.
So like pushing to make something work when it just doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah. I think rejection types just cut off much quicker than the other types. Like, you know, if it's not, like if I'm bringing something, I mean, that's something I've definitely had to pay attention to, is just the 8 disengage, all the different micro ways as a rejection type that I might disengage from something that, like it feels like I can't even exist in the situation if what I'm bringing isn't working. So just, I completely disengage. And so I would imagine that if you don't have any rejection types, you're not doing the disengaging from things.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a friend who is either a 6 with some 8 or an 8 with some 6. I don't know. But she consistently is like, I'm so confused by the fact that you like are still friends with certain people. Like she will say that all the time. And I'm like, well, I mean, like they aren't hurting me, so
I can say that about David too. Just there's some people that feel that they can always talk to you even regardless of whatever's happened. Like you can be Switzerland, you know.
Yes. I as a child, not as a child, but like up until the age of probably 20, 21 was well known as being the Switzerland friend of just like I was everybody's friend no matter what. Like
yeah, I can't, like for me I've got 2 of rejection types, and I feel like I give people a long leash. Like once I let you in, there's a lot of, I can put up with a lot, but once I'm done, it's like you're like you have ceased to exist, like completely not on this planet anymore. So there's a hard cutoff with rejection types. And not to bring up your pain, David, but isn't that what happened with the 852?
Is that she cut me off?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it was 100% just absolute slice and never heard a word. Just
that's
as
brutal.
If, but
yeah, that's cold.
Yeah, no, I mean just beyond, and I kept assuming, of course, me being my typology, that she was
She'd
going to
come
say
back.
something just that she would say something at some point, but nothing ever happened. Nothing, no finalization, closure whatsoever.
Damn. So it was just kind of like things were going well, and I guess it was getting close to her being affected in real life, and she ran away.
Yeah, she just, she was, well, it's partly to me, and maybe the 8 thing of, well, she was just really scared, actually, because it was coming down to it. It was, the clock was ticking, and we were going to finally meet. She had a year contract where she was working, teaching English in Russia, and she was going to be coming back to the States, and she just got overwhelmed and scared and didn't want to show that vulnerability, and just sliced it.
Yeah, I mean, any sexual type can relate. I mean, I think anyone, to some degree, of feeling the threat of falling into a new attraction that feels like it could just rip you apart. Like, that shit's fucking scary for anybody, but very sensitive for sexual types.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it, is that she was a sexual type, and she was 33, and she was a virgin.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like, here goes. You're on, you're up to the plate. So.
Oh shit. That's all the chips on the table right there. If you're, yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could, wow.
Yeah.
It's funny because in my head, I have had experiences where it's like, this could be like, a big deal. Like, it could be like a really good thing. And I just assume that feeling of like, oh no, is a correct feeling. I'm just like, oh, that's my gut telling me that I shouldn't do this. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I've done that to a lot of men.
Yeah. I mean, what is the scary feeling that's come up for me? I think the last few years, and of course we've discussed this multiple times, I've really gotten better at having better access to my heart, and that's fucking terrifying as a heart last. But I remember the first time that I, just really like expressing from the heart space how I felt about someone I was attracted to, which is to me like the scariest thing that you can do, that I've ever done. But it didn't work out, and that wasn't the point. The point was that I felt incredible about, I don't know, like sort of like jumping into the void of expressing like, this is how I feel about you. Without trying to control the outcome, which is what my personality, I'm just going to make it, how can I make it likely that I'm not going to experience rejection? As a sexual type, it's like, how do I control the terms of how this attraction takes place? And, just sort of allowing attraction to happen versus trying to orchestrate it. That's also another fucking terrifying thing as a sexual 8. But that feeling of, this is not good, I don't like this. I've had to like learn that that's my personality trying to double down on the thing that it wants to do. I mean, of course, you need to fucking be careful. Like, there's some things that are a bad idea. I'm not going to put anybody on blast on here. Some things are a bad idea. You should pay attention to those feelings.
What are you saying?
But anyway, yeah. That sense of knowing that something's wrong and how to distinguish if that's like, this is actually good for me and it's something that would be a growth point for me to actually experience versus actually, this is bad, I need to stay the fuck away. Yeah,
it's a fine line, and I have yet to figure it out.
Yeah. I guess
I feel like that's a whole lifelong battle right there.
Well, maybe what it comes down to is that there is something about needing our opposites, or that opposites attract thing, where the types that we're missing or the qualities that we're missing, like, we are attracted to it. But if you went the full opposite, that would be a disaster.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
like, you need some kind of like meeting, like we talked about. You need some kind of meeting ground where it feels familiar and comfortable, but it also challenges you. So yeah, I mean, rejection. You guys are missing rejection, and I'm missing superego, basically. Stockholm.
Yeah.
My thing as far as core types is I'm usually attracted to all the assertive types and 6s. So as a sleepy 9, that's a big
yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, my history is, regardless of the type, 'cause I've generally went for 7s and 3s. I really tried to make 9 work, but it seems like I needed assertive types that didn't care about me being obnoxious. But one thing that's always been sort of like the polarity for me is like I'm the sort of grumpy, annoyed person, and then this positive, somewhat positive, bright personality as a contrast. And that's kind of been sense. Yeah, that's always kind of been I've had a lot of 7s, and even the 3s that I've worked out with were brighter personalities. Anyway, any more angles before we wrap it up? I don't know, this is probably something we could get multiple part twos.
Oh yeah, I would be interested in talking more about this. It's fun. But I'm hungry right now, so get on my tummy. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's good. We did like almost an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well that was fun.
All right, guys.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Have a good week. Bye.